We put in ESG in our lending vetting process. So that takes care of the asset side. As we move forward in 2019, we came up with the Sustainable Finance Framework, which now talks about the funding side. So together, they have been a very powerful mobilizer of our program across all asset classes, and we have been able to showcase and share this with the industry. So in the early years, we were one of the few, if not the only bank, aggressively pursuing ESG. And I'm very happy to note that now more and more banks, and also the BSP and the regulators, are pushing the agenda forward. And we continue to help bring the message across and to more listeners, even our partners and our clients as well.
Not that. But Gavin, I just want to ask an additional question. As you're moving towards the sustainability efforts of the bank, especially in financing projects, I'm sure that there was also certain challenges which came along with that you had to overcome, because of course there's a certain mindset that you are the pioneer, you're the innovator, so the others are not going to follow suit at once. How did RCBC overcome the sort of challenges to become to move towards sustainability in financing?
Well, you're right. The conversation initially, the beginning, we were one of the few, so it was really more of educating our clients, and maybe Beth can have some inputs because she faces our clients.
Thank you. Hi. For over 10 years now, our President Eugene mentioned that we have been funding very actively renewable energy. We've been engaging proponents in order to support them with their sustainability initiatives, and that is really in the form of funding their projects, specifically wind and solar. So we've funded more than 3 gigawatts, we've supported more than 3 gigawatts, and we have a sizable pipeline of projects. And we have had a lot of repeat businesses as customers kept coming back. That just goes to show that we are able to deliver projects where we were able to work with proponents and address the different challenges, because all projects have unique challenges, and we're able to come up with structures that were deemed acceptable to all stakeholders and on a timely basis, if I may say, so that our experience has given RCBC a clear edge in terms of experience and skills in being able to come up and address these requirements of our customers.
Ms. Beth, let me also better appreciate, as a business person, whether I'm an enterprise or I'm an MSME or SME approaching you, what exactly are the sustainable financing, I guess, core principles that we should be aware of as clients or particular industries who want to approach RCBC for sustainable financing? What are the core principles we should be aware of?
Okay. Since this forum is, of course, focused on SMEs, so I'd like to address that on the point of view of SMEs. SMEs, a lot of them are actually part of a larger supply chain of big customers, big corporations, multinational corporations. These corporations on their own already have their own sustainability initiatives and are already requiring everybody at the back, everybody in their ecosystem to be sustainable as well. So it is very important that SMEs are able to adapt for them to continue to thrive and continue to do business dealings with the big corporations and the multinationals. So sustainability will be in various forms. So that can be in like the kind of power they source. So is it coming from renewable energy or the thermal, the non-traditional sources? And also in the processes that they do. So are they using, one example, single-use plastic. So how do they use a lot of that? So practicing circular economy where you recycle, reuse, those are things that you can actually start on a small scale and later on embed it in your process, in your mindset, in each and every employee's mindset to be able to come up with like a sustainability focused team. So that's the idea that our SMEs should actually start adopting.
Yes, please.
Maybe I can add to that. I've been asked this question in other fora. And I think for the SME, one of the things you should look at, number one, is your core process. Which of these components can be more sustainable? Beth had mentioned, raw material supply, even production of your products, what energies. But you can also look at your support processes. What are the infrastructure, the utilities, water management? You can also look at circular economy, we call it. It's recycling, maximizing your materials, and making sure that least waste is expelled. So I think it starts from looking at the core process and the support processes and where each component can be made more sustainable.
So just to clarify, coming from the point of view of the business person, and he comes over to you and says, here's my project, right now RCBC will also evaluate all these other criteria in the process for them to say, okay, this is going to be a sustainable finance loan that we will offer.
That's right, that's right. In fact, we have a program now where for our suppliers, our third-party providers, we not only require them to have some ENS program in place as part of the accreditation process, we also provide them with literature on what ESG is about at RCBC.
I see.
That helps educate
So
them.
educate also the
That's
potential
right.
clients
That's
here at
right.
the same time. And then before I move on to our friends from SGV, before I move on there, I want to ask Ms. Beth one last question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So we know that the importance of an SME or the smaller enterprises that will be part of a larger chain where they're supplying enterprises where ESG is required of them. But also, what are the different kind of companies that can approach right now? Right now, to my mind, it's all about it's power, which is the most prominent, which was all about renewable energy, water, hydro, geo. But what are the other industries as well that you're looking at?
Okay, the other industries would include hospitals. We would have even financing companies for financial inclusion. So that's also part of the sustainability finance framework. Hospitals and schools. So, and then we have businesses which are actively promoting recycling. So those are things that, those are companies that will definitely be part of our sustainability finance space. And again, as long as the company is able to embed sustainability in their processes, so that's something that will definitely be a plus, and we will welcome as far as our sustainability initiatives are concerned.
Thanks so much, Ms. Beth. I'm going to go down to Ms. Glenda over here. And I understand you have an appreciation for SMEs. So help me better understand, because as they were saying, sustainability has to be an educational process, especially for SMEs. But right now, what is sustainability for SMEs as far as they're concerned? What are you seeing?
Good morning, everyone. Well, first, just to emphasize, no, that 99% of the business in the Philippines are actually SMEs.
That's right.
No, so that's huge. Second, SMEs, as we know, there might be some limited resources, no, in terms of fund, manpower, lack of time, knowledge, and maybe the focus would be more of generating profits. Okay, but Ms. Beth here made a very good point, no, that SME is really part of a broader value chain, no, ecosystem, because most of its clients can either be a larger corporations or the government, which is quite progressing on this space. So there is really no exception, I guess, no, for our MSMEs colleagues, no, not to also do something or set their agenda or sustainability objectives at this point. So may it be like treating their employees right, reducing their emissions, no, based on their targets, or following the rules and regulations. So as simple as that, and then progress as they go through their sustainability journey.
Got that. And I'm trying to, of course, I'm trying to balance also thinking like I'm operating here, I'm a smaller business. And obviously sometimes when you bring in sustainability practices, the cost of doing business actually increases for them. And it's hard to see the long-term goal when right now your profit margin is being squeezed because of inflations. So how do we help reconcile it for SMEs?
Yeah, actually that's correct. Really, there's an initial investment cost because the operations might require a new equipment, no, to make it more efficient, to save energy in the case, waste management, etc. But we do have to realize that in the long run, there's still benefit, whether it is on efficiency, no, on the operations, saving on cost, attracting revenue.
Mhm.
And also just to highlight, no, there's a lot of surveys that consumer nowadays also consider the sustainability position of the brand in making their purchase decision.
I see.
And lastly, in terms of attracting talent as well. So employees also consider, whether what are the positions of their company in terms of social issues for them to whether to stay in the company or whether to join the company. So those are just some of the benefits, no, that they can earn in the long run.
So, after hearing as well, it's I think a bigger concern, particularly for the more Gen Z and millennial employees and clients, that if I join a company in a little way, it helps improve the quality of life or change the world in a little way. Kapag Gen Z, di ba tayong dalawa? That's right, no? Millennial pala, millennial over there. Thanks so much. I'm going to go to attorney naman here. Attorney, I know that what's nice about speaking to you right now is you're a social entrepreneur advocate. You brought about, in your term, you brought about 3,000 e-trikes delivered to many LGUs. So you have a better appreciation of actually how to get even the micro and small entrepreneurs to come on board into the sustainability chain, the sustainability framework. Maybe you can share with us a bit more so many of our SMEs can better appreciate how do we take that journey. Now, what is your best practice to bring more people on board that journey?
This is coming from the perspective of the younger generation. So, people born in the 2000s. I wish. So just trying to put all of those things, all of those concepts together based on our experience. One of the primary reasons why I was really excited to join this group of people and talk about sustainability is our own personal experience.
Mhm.
Back in 2013, we tried to put up electric vehicles, trying to introduce the concept, the idea of using electric vehicles in public transportation. It was quite novel at the time. The problem was, how do you finance it? And here, finally, you have a bank like RCBC who's willing to go out on the limb and finance sustainability projects. And for us, that's really something. It's so hard when you're in a situation where values are shifting, when there's a realization that there's more things that we need to do in order to make this planet a better place, when suddenly intergenerational responsibility becomes the byword. It's easy to talk about it, it's very difficult to do. So for SMEs right now, you now have better opportunities. You now have banks, you now have financial institutions that are willing to provide the needed finance. Everything that we do in business requires a resource.
Mhm.
But finding that resource is difficult. And so for SMEs to actually have these products, and these financial products available, it makes it much, much easier as compared to before. In our experience in the e-tracks, financing is still the last ceiling. Right now, I'm a consultant for a company that's trying to roll out more e-tracks for several cities in the NCR, and the problem really is the financing. That's really the biggest challenge. And to have, again, this opportunity.
Aren't you glad you're on this platform right now where the president of RCBC can hear that doing financing right now for
So
e-trikes?
the funny thing is, whenever you're in a forum like this, they usually give you guide questions, right? And so one of the guide questions that I read about was the fact that what are the opportunities for SMEs, right?
Yes, exactly.
Sustainability now. And there's a lot now compared to 10 years ago. Because now you can have a project that you want to do, that you're going to take a risk in, and it's really, for SMEs, it's really the risk aversion. That's really the problem.
Mhm.
You don't want to put up more money, more capital, when you can use those resources for your own bottom line, for your own particular business. But now you have government institutions coming in, trying to support two recent laws. You have the Electric Vehicle Industry Act, you have the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act. And now the private financial institutions are coming in. So there's more opportunities to get financing, which is really, honestly, that's really the challenge. And the fact is, we don't need perfection in sustainability. We don't need 100%. We don't need 100%. It's impossible to get 100% now. But it would be great to get 2%, 3%. Progress, I think, is the key. So like Gabby said, like Glenn said, like all the other members of the panel said, in doing all of these small things slowly and surely, that's the way we're going to combat this problem.
And exactly, and like you said, it's a move towards sustainability. It's not going to be something that we can immediately move towards. Like right now, we open the forum to that discussion, so at least we provide an opportunity for projects like yours to go. Before I go back to our friends from RCBC, I'm just very curious, if you don't mind me asking, where comes the drive for you? I mean, this is 2013, 2015. It wasn't the drive towards sustainability wasn't being echoed by too many people at that time. So where was the drive for you to become a social entrepreneur advocate to push for things like e-tricycles?
I was genetically predisposed to it. I'm asthmatic. I have severe skin asthma. And so when I walk out, and I love to walk, that's the problem. I love to walk in the sun, I love to walk. And when you walk around the city now, it's just, I love to travel. We were talking about this earlier. And then when you travel, you go to other countries, walking around is great. They have green spaces, public transport is amazing. I love the Philippines, and we always discuss this amongst friends whenever you go drink with Filipinos. You always talk about, would you ever migrate? Would you ever go to a different country? But I don't want to migrate. I love this country. And so if you want to live in a better place, then you have to start contributing to that ideal. You have to start working towards that ideal. And so that's how the idea started. If you look at the data, public transport is one of the biggest contributors to air pollution in this country. We have jeepneys that were designed to work on diesel engines that are usually 20, 30 years old, running right now on our streets. We have tricycles that are two-stroke, running around all over the country. It's every day, and you're walking around, you're inhaling all of these pollutants. We need to start doing something about it. And then that's how it started. The idea of bringing electric vehicles to public transportation.
Got that. Thanks so much. And jumping off from your discussion, which is very interesting. So you're discussing, the requirements that you need to get financing for something like e-vehicles. I want to go back now because that was our discussion earlier on with Ms. Beth and over here with Gabby. Was that you're coming up with the criteria, the processes, and the protocols. So for example, we've got business people listening to us here right now. They're saying, okay, I'm interested to get into sustainable financing and introducing these green products like the e-trike. If you were to just buy a business, but instead, what do you think they need to be able to qualify or to be part of the sustainable financing efforts of RCBC?
Well, the bank, it's normal. The bank would have to look at the business model and see how it pans out. How it will be able to service like the debt that it will acquire to be able to fund that project. And there are also a lot of intangibles attached to it. So we also put consideration to that. It's still largely a business proposition, but the good thing about it is that it's not just business just to earn money, because there is something more that the business gains, and we as a funder also are able to gain by being part of that project. So in short, it's still really a business. It's a business. It's not charity. It's business. So the whole thing has to make sense. There has to be enough returns for the investor as well as the bank, and also a bigger return for everybody, the environment included.
Got that. Yes, Gabby, please.
Maybe the next thing about our sustainable lending practice is that it's not just a sustainable portfolio that comes into focus. The entire portfolio comes into focus. In fact, we do due diligence on our portfolio, on our projects, and we provide inputs to the project proponents, the clients, on how they can address certain issues, be better with their operation, be better sustainable in the way they do things. I think it's not just, I want to join the sustainable portfolio of RCBC, but I think you want to join the portfolio of RCBC, and you will help you become more sustainable.
Got that. And springing forth from that question, from that answer rather, is to also ask, you were saying earlier, okay, these are the projects that we are actively looking for. Can you just find out more or less? So these are businessmen, entrepreneurs, business owners, plus what are the projects that you're actively looking to support for sustainable financing? At the same time, can you also give us exemplars, maybe what you've seen abroad that you're saying, oh, this is interesting. It's something we should do in the Philippines, and if so, we did this project here. It's something we might take a look at.
Okay, RCBC is covering like the entire, from the smaller projects to the big projects now. On a big scale, we have been funding utility scale solar and wind farms. So again, this could be proponents who are putting up their own solar or wind farms, and they're selling the power either to the grid or to the off-taker, a corporate off-taker. And so there are contracts, things like that. We're both doing solar, wind. In the past, we did hydro and also geothermal. abroad, it's more or less the same thing. The difference would be maybe the regulatory regime. So the bank is, in a way, the bank is, I don't want to say flexible, but we're open. We're open to being able to come up with creative ways of addressing risks. Because there will be risks, whichever way it takes, there will always be risks. But the idea is for us to be able to do something creative that will also address the risks that we're looking at. For SMEs in particular, for one example would be, let's say, putting up solar panels on their rooftops. So that's something that we can definitely look at. We know that putting up solar panels will result to savings to their business. So that's something that you can really put a number to and try to see how it will help the business and how it will further increase their productivity, output, the sales. So those are things that we normally look at.
Great. And Glenda, from your perspective now, I was thinking from the SME's perspective and understand that having worked with many of them, how do you think, do you have any recommendations on how financial institutions can also sort of tailor their processes to support businesses in their financial journey, in their sustainability financing journey moving forward? Of course, they're fixing everything up, and some of them they're big enterprises and they're small ones. So getting ready to prepare their new documentations for the bank, the new requirements for the bank. How do you think the banks can further help our SMEs?
Yeah, well, actually, when I was listening to President Eugene earlier in his welcome speech, all of the possible RCBC is currently doing. First, in terms of mobilizing and allocating the resources. So, banks, as you know, have that capacity to allocate resources, the investment, the borrowers, towards a low carbon economy. Second would be on engaging their clients. So having that discussion, as I heard, they have a certain target. It was not an abrupt decision, like to cut ties, with those coal-fired power plant. But it was a journey, it was a process. And I think having that conversation as well with the SMEs, having that discussion on how the bank can actually help them meet their objectives as well. Third would be on the leadership and capacity building, like what is currently happening, educating your clients on what can they do further towards this goal. So I think those are the things, that the financial institution can actually help. And lastly would be maybe also on the engaging the regulators, talking to them, corroborating on how this can actually progress further.
Got that. Thanks so much, Ms. Glenda. Attorney, earlier they were talking about the idea of risk assessment or trying to de-risk the ability for them to be able to lend money to our project, which are hopefully very sustainable in nature. From your own experience, how important is risk assessment, particularly for these smaller projects, even the e-track projects? So what was your own example of how you were able to, I guess, secure financing for this project at the same time being able to de-risk the project so it's something that's more palatable to our financial institutions?
Well, like I said, as earlier said, risk assessment is critical. It's critical. The bottom line is it has to be project viable. If it's not project viable, then you look for a way to either make it project viable or you look for a different project. We cannot place the burden of sustainability solely on one part of the sector. It has to have a return, and not only because it makes business sense, because then it stands on its own. These projects have to be, we have to do it not just because we need to, because it's the right thing to do, but it has to make business sense. So that's one of the reasons why it's critical that you study it well, not only from the perspective of somebody who say, I'm trying to stop myself from giving specific examples because there were programs that we ran across that kind of studied the Philippine landscape from the perspective of the West. And then they come here and then they try to implement a project. They did not start from the ground up. And so there are certain things that did not take into consideration. For example, again, without saying the name of this international financial institution, the problem was the product that they tried to roll out was just too expensive. And my term for it, they were trying to sell a Ferrari to people who lived in Tondo. It's not going to work. So the project has to be viable. It's still business. We're still talking about the bottom line. We need to make sure that we plan accordingly, you have risk mitigation, and you have strategies in place.
And I would say that you're a social entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I have to tell people that, problems are just, or pain points are really just opportunities in disguise. So as a social entrepreneur, I'm sure that there were some projects which didn't work for you, but you had to, I guess, pivot a bit, change it up a bit, and finally it was something that was more viable. How did that work out for you, particularly in this industry for sustainability?
When you're at the forefront of something, it's going to be very painful. It's always going to be very painful. The risk is higher. The risk exposure is it's insanely high. Just to share a really quick example, when we first started working with electric vehicles and public transport, the government then required us to get what you call an emissions test, like whenever you register a car. And interestingly enough, before, when you try to get an emissions test using an electric vehicle, they would not give us clearance because we didn't have emissions. So try explaining to somebody that the reason why you don't have emissions is because you don't use fossil fuels. And so it's quite difficult. But these things need to be done so that the processes will change, policymakers take notice, rules will change, the regulatory framework will change, and it becomes easier for everybody else. Pivot, we pivot so many times, we call it business cha-cha already, just to be able to get some food on the table. So like I said, and this is really off topic, you want to do this when you're younger.
Kaya naman Gen Z, we're all Gen Z at heart here naman. So that's
Heart only,
heart, but it's the body that counts over here.
The body no longer recovers as fast.
Really, really great insights coming from all of our guests over here. And I'm really sad to say that we have to wrap up our discussion very soon, particularly for our friends watching us on Zoom. But as we move forward, maybe just some parting advice right now that we are able to give to those people, especially to the enterprises and to the SMEs that are listening to us here right now. That there will be challenges, I guess, along the way in this direction. But coming from your perspective, from the perspective of the bank, from the perspective of our consultants in SDB, and also from our social entrepreneur, as they drive the journey towards that direction in sustainability, what is the advice that you'd like to give them? First to our enterprises and to our SMEs.
I think the message of sustainability is that we're all moving there. There may be pain points at the beginning, but pun intended, because of the way regulations and laws are going to come out, we need to be more sustainable, more future-proof. So we need to have a longer view of our business model. At the same time, this is a big opportunity, especially for the SMEs, because we are now looking for emerging technologies in the renewable space. And this is the opportunity to become the next big thing. So I think they also have to keep an eye out for that. So there's a long-term view and also there's a short-term eye out for disruptive technologies that you can be a part of.
Got that. Round of applause, please, Mr. Gabby Tomas, Chief Risk Officer of RCBC.
Thank you. The United Nations defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So on that alone, the stakes are really high. The future generation, the stakes are high. So sustainability, there is no other way. Everybody has to really adopt sustainability. We may be doing it in different paces, but there is no way that we will not adopt. We have to basically practice and preach it in our daily lives. It cannot just be the big corporations. It cannot just be the big businesses and the governments. Everybody, so the SMEs most especially, and all of us in our personal lives, we have to adopt sustainability. And for the SMEs, our RMs, our RCBC relationship managers, will touch base with you to see how we can work with you towards this journey, towards your journey towards sustainability. And there is no, in short, everybody, as I said, everybody has to go through this journey. After all, there is no planet B. That's all.
Thank you so much. Round of applause, please, Beth Coronel, Head of Corporate Banking Group here, RCBC, and our Executive Vice President, Ms. Glenda.
Yeah, I guess for me, I just want to probably separate for SMEs and then for the larger corporations. No? For SME, start probably integrating, sustainability in your operations, I just have probably 4 key stages, or key steps. First is really to assess and identify, your environmental and societal impact and where you can make a significant difference. Second would be your commitment, strategic commitment, no? So start drafting your strategy and commitment, and if I may borrow the concept from BSP, applying the concept of proportionality. I know the effort of SME and larger corporation is different because the risk profile is different, the exposure is different. So what is important is that you identify what is your risk appetite. Third would be goal setting and implementation. And I would like to highlight 2 areas. No? In terms of goal setting, similarly to how we know how goals should be set, it should be SMART, right? And then second would be on the implementation, clear action steps, and then of course the evaluation. So as we know, we cannot manage what we cannot measure. So make sure that you have a metrics where you can track your sustainability journey. And lastly would be the reporting. So if I may apply an analogy, some people having their fitness journey would like to post something on social media, right? And then everyone would be will wait for the result whether they will really lose weight. So same thing with sustainability. Reporting would be help engage your stakeholders, report to them the progress, and that would promote trust and transparency. For those larger corporations which I think are more advanced, maybe it's also time to first strengthen the governance. It's always a tone from the top. Second, time to revisit also your strategy, your scale of ambition. Maybe it's the time really to set a bolder target. And then lastly, the quality of disclosure. So I think that's all from me, RJ. Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you. Really great tips. Ms. Glenda Nino of SGB. Let's give her a round of applause as well. Attorney Bodhi.
So whenever you find yourself in a situation where attitudes are changing, or values are changing, regulatory frameworks are changing, there's always risk and opportunity. So let's start with the good stuff, the opportunity. So whenever you have this situation, there's an opportunity to change systems, change processes, that may actually be good for your bottom line. And so you now have the opportunity to change something in your process, something in your business model that might actually end up benefiting you. So that's the opportunity. You have to be aware of the risks, right? And then whenever you change any process, anything in your value chain, there is a risk involved, but there's also regulatory risk. And then I have a specific example because a lot of people are not aware, but if you're a building owner or if you're a tenant consuming a certain amount of power every month, there's 2 thresholds. And when you reach those thresholds, you're actually required now to file reports with the Department of Energy under the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Act. A lot of people are not aware of this. And there are penal provisions, and there's fines that you might be required to pay. And so opportunity and risk, very, very present right now with the changing regulatory framework and with the changing attitudes and values that we have.
Thanks so much, Attorney Bodhi Pulido. One round of applause, Attorney Bodhi from Pulido, Gulidaman, Manantil, and De La Fuente. Hello, again, thank you so much to all our panelists. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, to all our friends watching us right now on Zoom, thanks so much for joining us. We hope that you appreciated all the insights that you gained from here. Again, Ms. Beth was saying that our relationship managers will get in touch with our friends from RCBC who are interested to engage in sustainability financing with the bank. They're more than happy to speak to you and educate you on the ESG principles that they're following here right now for RCBC. In the meantime,